Hi guys, so we are Neelithal Aquaponics. Okay, so we have started aquaponics back in 2014 in India. Okay, um, so we do aquaponics farming and also we do design consulting and installations for home systems, semi-commercial and commercial systems across India. Okay. We have been featured as one of the 10 promising agri consultant in India by Consultant Review magazine, and we are specialized in zero discharge aquaponics and adaptive technologies. So we are going to look at what is zero discharge aquaponics in the today's session. Okay, and we work on a vision to educate, emphasize, and enable environment aware farming. Okay, we'll see what is environment aware farming. Okay. To achieve this vision, we have three verticals. We work on three verticals. Basically, know where your food grows, know how your food grows, and grow your own food. Okay. So we strongly believe that as an individual, we need to know where our food grows. Okay, because we take a lot of time in whatever we buy, right? We take utmost care to make sure that we buy a good product. We look at a lot of reviews, we get opinions from friends, this, that, and all those stuffs. Or for all anything and everything, whatever we buy, right? But we really don't care about the food we eat every day, and really doesn't care about where it actually comes from, right? So this is one of the key things which we wanted to enable. We should know where our food grows. At least we should know the farmer. I mean, we know where the from which grocery store we are buying or the supermarket we are buying from, but we really don't know where the food is actually grown, right? So that is something which is key as what we believe, because we all have kind of decided to go into organic produce, consume organic produce and all those stuff. A lot of people have question of whether the organic produce, whatever I'm buying from the store, is actually grown organically or actually grown naturally. Or this is kind of a question we always have in mind because the system in India doesn't facilitate this. I was in US, at least there we have an option to choose even a simple tomato or a green leaves, lettuce, whatever you buy from the grocery store or supermarket. They have a label, right? So they have a label about from which farm it came from. So there is a traceability. It's up to you to decide whether you want to buy that produce next time or you want to just move to other farmer, right? We don't have a such option here in India. So that is what we wanted to enable. We want to bridge the gap between the consumer and a farmer. Okay, so that is why we emphasize on know where your food grows. And the second part is know how your food grows. This is again an important thing because the increase in population and the way the world population grows, a lot of concerns. If you guys looked at some of the articles about food security and other stuff, there will be a lot of concerns that we will not be able to make as much as produce to feed the entire population. Right, that's why people bring in a lot of this fertilizer base, because there's one misconception in my view that organic produce cannot take care of the food security. They will not be able to supply it for the entire population, and we have to go with synthetic fertilizers. That's one key thing which has been insisted by the synthetic fertilizer guys for a long time, even when the green revolution started, right? But I mean, in our view, it is not actually true. If we do truly organic, we should be able to do much more abundance produce compared to synthetic fertilizer based produce, right? So it is important for us to know as a consumer how this food also grows, right? So have some basic understanding of how plant nutrient uptake happens, what are the nutrient requirement for the plants, and how do we supply and all those stuffs, right? So that is also an important thing. So that is also something which we work on to educate people on understand how food grows so that they can grow their own food. The next vertical is grow your own food, right? So it is an unmatched feeling when you actually consume the food which you actually grown yourself. Okay, and in fact, Neelithal was started from that, right? So when I was in US, I came across this aquaponics, and I visited some of the farms, commercial farms over there, and volunteered. And then I set up an own backyard level system back in California. Okay, so but then the real transformation happened when I actually tasted the food which I grown myself in aquaponics. Right, it had a plenty of difference in terms of taste, in terms of quality. It was way ahead of the produce what I bought in stores. Okay, that was a transformation. And then okay, I said to myself that okay, we should take this in a different way. And then I discussed with my friend and now my partner about setting up an aquaponics unit back in India. So that's how it all started. So the actual transformation point is the quality of produce or the satisfaction you get when you grow. I mean, when you consume your own food, which you have grown yourself, right? So that is another step which we emphasize people to grow their own food. And given situation, a lot of office goers and even for homemakers and everyone, it becomes a little complicated to maintain a regular soil-based or an some other model of growing system on their rooftop or something like that. So aquaponics again solves that problem as well by having like it's a 90% automated by design. Okay, when I say automated, it's not electronically or electrically automated. By design itself is a natural ecosystem which develops on its own. So the overall maintenance and the time you spend on an aquaponic system on a day-to-day basis is very less when compared to any other rooftop garden methods or whatever you adapt. Okay, so these are the three verticals we as a company work on to achieve our vision of educate, emphasize, and enable environment aware farming. Right. So, what is environment aware farming? So there are a lot of things. So we all have decided to go with organic. And I was also talking about when we actually do truly organic farming, we can actually produce a lot abundance food when compared to synthetic fertilizers, right? So, but then what is actually hindering us from not doing truly organic, right? So let's take an example, right? So in the given situation. So, I mean, we have been doing natural farming for years and years back in decades, and then we got introduced into the synthetic fertilizer as part of the green revolution and industrialization. Now, if you want to go back to, I mean, we all know that because of this industrialization and synthetic fertilizer-based farming, the fertility of the soil has gone down. There is no earthworms in the soil, blah blah blah, a lot of things, right? So now if you want to convert your land into an organic farm, there are a lot of procedures, right? Like you have to give a rest period for 3 to 4 years, and then you have to cultivate this, and then roll back into the soil again to increase the fertility of the soil, right? And to increase the bacterial population in the soil. So this is all we talk about, right? One thing which gets missed out is the water contamination we have done to the groundwater, okay? So the groundwater, we talk a lot about water scarcity these days. It's like we are running out of water. The borewell has gone 1,000 feet or even more than that to fetch water and all those stuff. But one thing which we don't really take care of is the water contamination, the water pollution. Okay. Of course, we talk about water pollution which is happening by industries and the nearby areas. Okay. And one thing which we don't really look at or easily overlook is the amount of water contamination done by synthetic farming. Okay, so so coming back to this converting your soil land into an organic farming, we can do all these land preparation and soil preparation, microbes and all those stuff, but there is no control on the groundwater, right? Let's say you have a land of 2 acres and you convert everything in your soil to become organic, but then you cannot change your groundwater. The groundwater is going to be shared across like kilometers of radius, okay? And that's going to be shared along with other farmers and industries nearby. Forget about industries, let's talk about other farmers who's doing synthetic fertilizer farming, right? So all the pesticides and chemical fertilizers, whatever they use in their farm, are going to get enter into the landfill and finally mix into the groundwater. And it's the same groundwater which we are sharing across, right? So even though we convert our land and do all kinds of preparation, because of this water contamination, we cannot actually do a true organic farming. Okay, this is our perspective of why we couldn't achieve a higher yield in organic farming. And so the whole thing we have to look at is we have to look at the entire ecosystem as a one single entity, and we have to convert everything into organic model or a natural model, right? But that is very impossible in the given situation. Because we cannot control groundwater, right? So, and similarly, not only synthetic fertilizer based farming and industries, we have fish farming on the other hand, right? So fish farming is another way of polluting things into the groundwater, right? Because the fish excrete produces a lot of ammonia, okay? That actually, if you look at the Western countries, any fish farming, I'm talking about the pond culture based fish farming, typical conventional farming method, okay? When it produces a lot of ammonia, which is harmful to human beings, not only human beings, any living organism for that matter, and it will kill the fish itself. So they do an extensive water exchange, okay? So they need to remove this poisonous ammonia from the fish pond. They replace the water with they replace the water with a new source of water. Okay, so there is a huge amount of water which is being removed from the fish ponds, okay, and which is ammonia rich water, and that all again goes back to the landfill and get mixed with your groundwater. Okay, in Western countries there is a very strict enforcement of processing these water before adding it to the landfill or lake or river or anything for that matter, right? Which is basically an effluent treatment plant or a sticky treatment plant, something similar to what we have these days in industries and even in apartments these days. We could see wastewater treatment plants, right? So something's it's the same technology which needs to be incorporated in fish farming also. But I don't think that has been strictly followed in India to make sure that they process the water. And even if they enable that, for the volume they produce and the amount of cost it's going to occur for them to run that STP unit is going to nullify. So they will run out of profit. Okay, these are like the main contaminations which is we have been keep adding to the groundwater, which is actually spoiling the not only the ecosystem and also the future of farming. Okay, at some point, even if we have water, we may not be able to use it to consume or to use it for an agriculture purpose, okay, because of the high levels of contamination. Okay, we'll come up with some technologies like RO and all those stuff, but that is actually not solving the problem, right? So that is, if you look at how RO technology works, it is actually filtering out the bad sediments or whatever the chemicals in that, but we are just using the 40% of the filtered water. There's a remaining 60% of water which goes back into the landfill or in the drainage. That is highly polluted. Okay, so you just let's take an example, right? So you have a 1 liter of water with let's say 10 ppm of or let's say 100 ppm of all these salts and chemicals in it. I'm just saying it in a layman word, but there are a lot of things into it, right? So, but for simplicity, let's take it for 100 ppm of salts are there in that 1 liter of water. When it passes through an RO, we get around like 400 ml of filtered water without this pollution. Okay, but then we have 6 liters of highly polluted water. This 10 ppm of the contamination of the salts has become very concentrated and settling down in that 6 liters of water, 600 grams of milliliter of water, right? And that we are like leaving it to the drainage or into the groundfill basically, right? So what that means is, to extract just a 40% of good water, we are dumping even more polluted water back into the groundwater, right? Which means that we are contaminating further to a larger extent the groundwater. So if we keep doing this, at some point we will not be able to come up with some kind of technology, we can filter out this very high concentration or very contaminated water, right? Or even if there is a technology which comes in place, it's going to be very, very, very costly for every common man to afford to. Okay. So what is the solution we are thinking of? It as basically the first step to avoid this is stop contaminating further, right? So let's say you want to rehabilitate or regenerate your groundwater. The first thing you have to do is okay, the best solution what the nature has given us is rainwater. Okay, so you have to do a lot of rainwater harvesting and add it back to the groundwater. Okay, so that's actual solution. But then what we have to do also is the first step is to stop contaminating further, right? So that is very, very essential, because like we cannot stop farming, we cannot stop synthetic farming or industries or anything for that matter in a given situation, right? The world has evolved as such, and it has to continue this way. But only thing we wanted to make sure is all these things, let it happen, but without affecting the nature or the groundwater specifically, right? So we have to stop contaminating further, but we cannot stop farming, right? So what is the solution we could think of is an aquaponics. Okay, so it's aquaponics is it's an 100% or 99.9% water conservative model, right? So where we don't add, let any water go back to the ground fill, and we keep reusing it. It becomes a natural ecosystem on its own, so that you won't spoil the other ecosystems or other environment. Okay, landfill is not polluted, and you get a higher yield. As I said, like this becomes a true organic system, production system. Okay, when compared to soil-based organic farming, where we don't have control of water. But here, the initial amount of water we add to the system is what we need to take care. Right. Once we take care of that, then the entire system is going to be 100% recirculating system, and we'll keep reusing the water purified in a very, very natural way, right? So in that way, we don't discharge any contaminated water back into the landfill, and also we are becoming a self-sustainable, a truly organic ecosystem, where the plants and fish and any living organisms, when I say any living organisms, we have bacteria and microbes also living in the ecosystem of aquaponics. All these things thrive and multiply and live happily, and we just get best things out of it, like good quality, high quality premium fish and high quality premium vegetables out of the system. Okay, and the other problem we look at solving this groundwater contamination, or in general any pollution for that matter, is a decentralized farming. Okay, so when a food produced, when a vegetable or when a fish gets produced in one place and transported across miles and miles, there are a lot of environmental damages we do today, right? So one is like around 30–40% of the produce itself is getting wasted. Okay, in the part of transportation. That is one thing which we are actually spending resources, but then we are actually wasting it due to the transportation irregularities, right? And then for the transportation itself, we use a lot of vehicles consumption, fuel consumption, and everything goes into place. The food miles, the carbon footprint can be drastically reduced if the food supply doesn't transported across miles and miles. Okay, and similarly, any cold storage kind of a system, any storage mechanism for that matter, will also affect the carbon footprint, right? So carbon emission affecting the environment, right? And also the quality of the produce is also getting reduced every hour, every day. It's being stored and transported. Okay, so we don't get a fresh produce. And we spend a lot of money and environmental damages to get these producers travel across kilometers. So in our view, we think that a farm produce should not travel more than 25 kilometers radius. Okay, within this 25-kilometer radius, you should be able to sell all your produce, or it has to reach the consumer. Okay, so the food production system has to be decentralized to every city level, area level, and even to your house level, right? Because like we should have a collaborative effort. Like one person cannot feed the entire world, one person cannot feed the entire city, right? So you produce certain bunch of vegetables and I produce certain bunch of vegetables, and we share across each other. is what we need to look at in a larger scale, right? So you could very well have an your own home garden system where you produce a certain beans and vegetables to your level, and there is, let's assume, like there is a street level farm, a bigger house on a rooftop. They have a farm where they produce another bunch of vegetables, and then like you have a city level farm where they produce the remaining stuffs for the people to consume, right? So that way the food miles are reduced much further. So we wanted to emphasize on decentralized farming, right? So these are the two solutions we think of. We could solve the problems of this water contamination and pollutions in the longer run, right? So before getting into understanding aquaponics, we need to know how a basic a natural ecosystem works. Okay, so this is a typical diagram which you could have seen in any food cycle, right? So because the fecal of one animal becomes and food for another animal, and this loop keeps on going. So basically, like the cow gives cow dung. The cow dung becomes a food for worms, and worms eat that, and then they consume whatever they want. And worm compost is nothing but fecals of the worms, right? And that becomes like compost for plants, and then the plants grow, take up that, and then the plants is actually consumed by the cow, right? So this is a typical food cycle. You will see one thing which typically gets mixed out is this part, okay? The microbes, the bacteria, okay? Actually, if you look at the bacteria, is the one which rules this world. Okay, so they are the one break down any and every nutrients which is available in an easily consumable format to all the living organisms. Actually, okay, not only for the plants, also to the cow and to the worms, and also to the humans. Okay, our digestive system is nothing but full of bacteria. Okay, not only ours, like any living organism, a cow or a goat or sheep, fish, anything and everything, their gut has nothing but bacteria. Okay, so the bacteria is the one which actually breaks down the nutrients, whatever we consume, okay, and make it water soluble and organs available format. Okay, so in this case, it converts the food, the worm compost, into a plant consumable format, and that's how it's taken to the plant. Because the plant cannot take even a single bit of dirt or soil or anything for that matter. Okay, all it can take up is only the water through its root system. Okay, so whatever the nutrients available in the water we irrigate with is what is all available to the plants. Okay, so we need to make sure that a proper amount of nutrients is dissolved in the water which is taken by the plant. Okay, so how do we do that, and who's going to do that? That is bacteria. That is done by bacteria. The bacteria is the one which is going to break down all these nutrients in a plant available format and dissolve it in the water, and that water is what is consumed by the plants. Okay. It's the same thing which it's happening on our body also. Okay, so we have, let's assume, like if we have an whatever the food we consume, we break it down into smaller pieces using a mechanical filtration like our mouth, and we send, because it's the same thing happening here also, right? The cow dung is a little bigger, and then the worm takes up that, and then the worm compost becomes even a little more smaller, so that the bacteria can handle them quickly and easily. Okay, that's the ultimate thing, right? So it's a similar stuff. So we break down our food, whatever we consume, in the smaller chunks, and goes to the stomach, and stomach where the bacteria live. They break down these nutrients and dissolve it into the blood, right? And the blood is being pumped all across the body, and whatever the organs they need, they consume it there, right? And this cycle keeps going on and on. And for oxygen supply, we have lungs, and there is a water pump, which is our heart, and things like that. If you take this, our human body, not only human body, entire ecosystem, the design principle of all the natural ecosystem is all the same. Okay, when I say natural ecosystem, it's our human body is a natural ecosystem, our warm body is a natural ecosystem. Everything you can segregate as a natural ecosystem. Okay, and the design principle is all the same, and we also needs calcium, potassium, magnesium, nitrate, and everything, right? And the plant also needs the same set of nutrients. It is just that the quantity of the nutrients is different from each animal to animal. Okay, maybe the cow needs a little more, a worm needs a little less, plant needs even lesser. Like we might have a different requirement, but the nutrient requirements as such, the numbers is almost remain the same for all the living organisms, because the design principle of nature is all the same. Okay, so to maintain a healthy, diverse population of bacteria is very key in a natural ecosystem. Okay, includes our human body also. Okay, and if you if you replace this cow or any other cattle with fish, and that's nothing but aquaponics. Okay, so instead of using a cow, we use fish, and it's all and since plant doesn't need soil or any other dirt to grow, it just they are going to consume the nutrients in the water. We can do soilless growing. So aquaponics is a completely and soilless growing technology. It's a water-based technology. It's a 100% recirculating model, and we use fish to produce the required nutrient for the plants. Okay. So let's quickly take a look at evolution of farming, right? So pond culture. So evolution of farming. When we say farming, we take two segregation, because like aquaponics is a combination of recirculating aquaculture system, and hydroponics, a soilless cultivation model. Okay, so it's when we put together these two, this is called as aquaponics, and it becomes a very natural ecosystem on its own. Okay, but before getting into aquaponics, we need to look at how the evolution for the farming evolution happened, and where we are in terms of the cycle, right? So pond culture is a typical one where you dug a pond in a soil, and then you have some water and then grow fishing, the regular typical one, right? So that is where the fishes grow naturally. You don't supplement or do anything aeration or anything like that to that system. But then the stocking density, you can, with the amount of fish you can grow in a specific water volume, this is very limited. Okay, and this has a low stocking density is what you can have. It's a low production system. And also it adds to the environmental problem of doing water exchange. You have to send this ammonia-rich water into a landfill, which is further polluting your water, right? Okay, so why do we need to change this water? Is because the ammonia is being continuously produced, right? So that is harmful to the fish itself. So to avoid that, we have to do something called we have to add something called biofiltration. Okay, basically we have to introduce nitrogen cycle into the loop. Okay, that is what has been done in a recirculating aquaculture system. Okay, recirculating aquaculture system is where basically the fish water is fish is grown in a recirculating system where the ammonia is converted into nitrite and nitrate. Okay, by bacteria again, the natural bacteria, nitrosomonas bacteria, nitrobacter. They consume this ammonia and convert. Basically, wherever the environment and feed source is available, any living organism will colonize. Okay, so when there is an ammonia and a surface area and oxygen, this nitrosomonas bacteria colonizes and consumes it and converts to nitrite. Okay, and a nitrite, wherever it is available, a nitrobacter colonizes and consumes it and converts to nitrate. Okay, so that way we are removing ammonia and nitrate. Both of them are poisonous from the system, but then we have nitrate. Okay, nitrate is fine for fish for a limited period of time, but when we grow fishes in a high nitrate level for a longer period, that becomes again harmful to the fish. So now we have to do nitrate removal process. Okay, then they added UV filters, basically denitrification unit to remove the nitrates, to make the nitrates into nitrogenous gas and release it to the atmosphere. And but by doing that process, there's a possibility of introducing pathogens and basically bad bacteria and viruses into the system. So then they added a UV filter to the system, to the loop for a recirculating aquaculture system, to kill all these bacteria. Okay, but then the UV filter doesn't know whether it is good bacteria or bad bacteria. It also kills the good bacteria also. Okay, so so that added a little more risk to the recirculating aquaculture system. So basically, recirculating aquaculture system is an advanced model when compared to a pond culture, where you could achieve higher stocking density because we have a separate biofiltration, mechanical filtration, and all those stuff. But then also it adds a little more risk in maintaining a system. Okay. And then we have Biofloc system. It's similar to RAS, but it achieves the same purpose, but in a different way. Okay. So in Biofloc also, what we want to achieve is to remove this ammonia level and nitrite level. But then in a different way, we add excessive probiotics. Probiotic is nothing but bacteria. Okay, good bacteria. We keep adding to the system. Okay, it's like maintaining a very aggressive bacterial population. Okay, but by doing that, again, we are adding the risk because it's not at the optimal level. You have to keep monitoring regularly and keep adding this probiotics to maintain a proper system. Okay, so your operational overhead and again your running cost is high. In a recirculating aquaculture system, the capital cost is high, whereas in a biofloc system, the running cost is high. Okay, to achieve the same, to solve the same problem of ammonia and nitrite conversion. Okay, and then we'll see how we do that in aquaponics. The same process. Okay, but before that, let's look at the soil-based farming. And again, in soil-based farming, I mean, in the natural agriculture farming, we know that we have been doing soil-based natural farming like decades ago, and then we were introduced into green revolution where we started using synthetic fertilizers, which has done enough amount of harm to us. And then came a soilless cultivation. Okay. Hydroponics. So since the plant doesn't need soil to grow, all they need is a nutrient-rich water. You can grow plants without soil. That's hydroponics. Okay, but then still we are using synthetic fertilizers in hydroponics. Okay, there has been a lot of misconception whether it's hydroponics or organic or not. You can claim hydroponics as pesticide-free if you don't spray pesticides, like you put it in a greenhouse and you never came across pest problems. That's a different thing than actually using a synthetic based fertilizer for the plants to grow. Okay, you can call soil based farming also pesticide free if you actually don't use pesticides, right, in a greenhouse and things like that. So the hydroponics in general, by design, by system design, it's a more of a sterile environment. Okay, it's like an incubator baby. Okay, so they don't allow explicitly pathogens, nematodes, or anything. Also, good bacteria into the system. Okay, so because the bacteria can come in and change your the chemical composition of whatever the fertilizer solution they have added to the system. Okay, bacteria has that capability, right? So they want to keep the bacterial population as less as possible in a hydroponic system. But then if anything and everything which is not converted by bacteria, we don't consider that as organic or truly natural. Forget about organic, but it's not truly natural, right? Our stomach system works with the help of bacteria. The entire natural ecosystem works with the help of bacteria. So if we have a system which is avoiding bacterial population, and then if we claim that as truly natural, which is something it's not right? So they still use synthetic fertilizer based solutions to supplement these plants to grow in a soilless environment. And then still a soilless environment, but using a natural farming methodology is aquaponics. Okay. So basically, aquaponics, as I said, it's a combination of RAS and hydroponics, right? So we took the best. We took actually two models, so one from the fish farming side and one from the hydroponics side. There are a lot of other disadvantages also. Like, let's say, for example, in hydroponics, the nutrient uptake process is a continuous alkaline process. It keeps increasing your pH. Okay, so to maintain the pH at a certain level, they keep adding acids to the system. Okay, which is, again, in my view, we shouldn't be doing it, right? And similarly, if you take only recirculating aquaculture system, this nitrogen cycle, ammonia to nitrate, nitrate to nitrate conversion is actually an acidifying process. Okay, so that keeps reducing your pH. Okay, you have to, but a pH level less than 6.4 or 6.5 will kill your bacteria and even fish and everything, right? So every living organism has an adaptable pH range which they can survive, right? So to avoid pH being continuously go down below 6.4 or 6.6, they keep adding some kind of a carbonate or bicarbonate source, like calcium carbonate or magnesium carbonate, bicarbonate, and things like that. So, I mean, in both the systems, if we look at, we are adding one way or the other chemical-based supplements to the system to keep it stable. Okay, but then when we take these two systems and combine it together, we don't need to really do any of these, right? Because like the recirculating aquaculture system, the nitrogen cycle will keep reducing your pH, and the nutrient uptake process of the plants will keep trying to increase the pH, right? So if we design the system in a balanced way and maintain a system in a balanced way, like for a certain amount of fish, a certain amount of vegetables has to be grown, this pH fluctuations is actually nullified by each other, and they remain stable. Okay, and that is the beauty of aquaponics. We are taking disadvantage of two industries and combining them together and making it a positive natural ecosystem, which is aquaponics. Okay. So similarly, one of the final end product of this nitrate, right? The nitrate removal is what we are worried about, right? So, and that is again done naturally, because nitrate is one of the major plant nutrient. Here we grow fish along with the vegetables, so that the plants take these nitrates and give back a purified water back into the system. Okay, so this works on a food cycle model similar to this. Okay, so we'll look at what exactly that is. Yeah, so these are all points we have already discussed. Aquaponics is a method in a very symbiotic relationship in a natural environment. It's truly organic. When I say 100% organic, it's truly organic, because we don't, once we start the system and the days goes and goes, the system matures and stabilizes on its own. You don't need to really worry about what is happening on the system. It's such a beautiful natural ecosystem which evolves on its own. Okay, and then it doesn't break the food cycle, right? Whatever the food cycle we talked about, we looked at earlier, it doesn't break the food cycle. It goes along with the natural way of growing things, right? Yeah. So again, this is the another thing is we have talked about truly organic, water conservative, more yield in less space. So we can actually grow like 2 to 3 times higher yield in terms of plants as well as fish in a limited space. Okay. That is another advantage, and then there is no soil, so there is no soil-borne diseases, and there is no weed happening in aquaponics. Okay, when we say no weed, it's not like 100% no weed, but it's like very 0.0001% of weed might happen, but it's very easy to handle. Okay, and then you have double produce and double income from a farmer's perspective, right? So you have both fish and vegetables to grow in the same ecosystem, and you get revenue out of both. Okay. And it's like by design itself, it's 90% automated system. You have very less labor to take care. Even if you have a home system, all you need to do is feed the fish twice a day. Like maybe spend 15 to 20 minutes in the morning and 15 to 20 minutes in the evening. That's all you might need to spend. And it will be worthwhile spending time in your own rooftop garden to grow your own food. And let's say you go out on a vacation for a week, you don't really need to worry about, okay, this is an 100% automated system. It's going to evolve on its own. Even if you don't feed the fish for a week or 2 weeks, it doesn't matter, because like they don't grow, okay, but they will survive. They won't die. Okay, they will keep growing. I mean, they will keep living. So you can come back and feed the fish and bring them up to the standard. Okay, and similarly for the plants, maybe like when you go out on a vacation and come back, you will see that the plants have thrived a lot than actually you have thought about. Okay. And then, okay, so now let's look at aquaponic cycle, right? So similar to what we have seen on the food cycle earlier. So we have fish tank, and from there, that is where we grow fish, and the fish excretes ammonia, and we will have ammonia-rich water, which is coming to the mechanical filtration, okay, for the fish waste removal. So we have to remove the fish poop from the system. That is where we use this mechanical filtration. You can think of it like breaking it down the system, breaking it down the fecal into a smaller part, the role of a worms, right? So that is being done by this mechanical filtration, where the fish poop is segregated, whereas ammonia-rich water is actually fed to the next stage, biological filtration. Okay, that is where the biology, I mean, the bacteria is going to live, colonize, thrive, and convert this ammonia and nitrite into nitrate. Okay. This is like the one which we see in the food cycle, the bacterial. Actually, it's the same, right? The bacterial population is going to live and convert this, do this nitrogen cycle. Okay, And then from biological filtration, the water is fed to a nitrate removal, right? Where actually the plants consume this nitrates and give back a clean water back to the fish tank. Okay. So this is a typical aquaponic cycle. Okay. So as part of this fish waste removal, you could see quite amount of sludge is being actually removed. Okay. So this is again goes back to the landfill, even though it's only like 5-10% when compared to any other system. 90% of the water is actually conserved back into the system. There is a 5% or 10% of water which goes out of the system. Okay, so what we have come up with is something called a zero discharge aquaponics. Okay, we don't even let this water go out of the system. So we added one more level of filtration. We call that as a zero discharge filtration, where even the solids are being removed, filtered to even more finer level, and the water is actually conserved and added back to the system. Okay, so it becomes like 99.9% water conservative aquaponics model. Okay, so not even a single drop of water goes out of this natural ecosystem. Okay, aquaponics. Okay, so these are some of the photos we have done. So this is our commercial farm photo, which is like running in a half an acre size, and this is like some of the rooftop gardens we do, semi-commercial and commercial rooftop gardens we have installed. Okay, there are a lot more, but I could fit in only a few in here. So this is how the roots will be hanging, guys. So you could literally take the plants out of the system and see how the root system looks like and all the stuff. Okay, in aquaponics. To give some general overview of what are the components involved in aquaponics, it's similar to this. From a fish tank, you have mechanical filtration, a biological filtration, and plant grow beds, and the water comes back to fish tanks, right? So the same thing here, but I have put some kind of what kind of filters and all those stuff. So from fish tank, it goes to a mechanical. These two combined together is called as mechanical filtration, where we filter out like. In the first filter, it's called as a radial flow filter, where we filter out 80% of the fish waste in this filters. Okay, and then the remaining 20, basically heavily settleable solids are filtered here, and then a fine mesh of filters goes here, which is getting captured here, and then like 99% filtered water. When I say filtered water, it's fish sludge removed water, but ammonia rich water goes to the biofilter. Okay, and this biofilter, this is where the nitrogen cycle happens, where the bacteria come and colonize, converts all your ammonia into nitrite and nitrite into nitrate, right? The nitrate is one of the major plant nutrients, which is fed to the grow bed system, where you grow plants. Okay, the plants consumes whatever the nitrate they want, and the fresh water comes back to some tank where we have a pump, and then like we pump that water back to the fish tank. Okay, and this cycle keeps going on and on and on. Okay, so we have like a single pump system, and it just keeps going on and on. It's just that we are circulating the water to different stages of this natural environment, so that the different filtration capabilities happens, and then the fish tanks get again a very clean water back for them to thrive. Okay, so as part of a mechanical filtration, we have a lot of options to use. So we have rotary drum filter, radial flow filter, swill filter, and media filter. There are a lot of options. A rotary drum filter is an automated drum filter which we recommend for commercial farms. Okay, a bigger size, like more than 50 cents or half an acre farms, is where we recommend the rotary drum filter. And then we have radial flow filter and swill filters, which can be used in a home system for ease of operations and easy maintenance. Our home system designs is basically designed to accommodate two sets of people, right? So one is mostly homemakers who's going to look after this ecosystem, right? So we wanted to make sure that it's as easily as possible for them to operate, so that these equipment, when I say these equipment, these are like basic drum filters, I mean barrels and things like that, put together in a specific format. Okay, so we have designed in such a way that it's all very easy to operate for homemakers and office goers. Okay, because office goers cannot spend a lot of time in the systems. The same thing applies for the homemakers. They should be able to easily operate with the kids and everyone. They should be able to get their own produce. That is the key thing, but at a less of work. That is what is is very important. Okay, so we have included these kinds of filtration systems in a very easily usable format for the people to operate. Similarly, we have biological filtration. There are a lot of options here. MBBR. MBBR is basically moving bed bioreactor. It's one of the top-notch technology in wastewater treatment plants, and that is what we are utilizing in aquaponics also. Okay. Similarly, we have other options like trickle filter and media filter. But we, even for a home system, from home system to a commercial scale, we recommend MBBR as a biological filtration in aquaponics system. Okay. Yeah, so this is again the purpose of biomechanical filter and biological filter. I think I have already talked about enough about these the previous slides. Okay, and then grow beds, right? So there has been a lot of questions like what kind of crops we can grow. Is it only leafy greens, or what kind of crop varieties we can grow in aquaponics? The typical question everybody have in mind. So we can actually grow all kinds of vegetables in aquaponics. Okay, but if you search in YouTube or anywhere in general, you will mostly see greens. Okay, greens is easy to grow. As a beginner, you can grow. Get started with leafy greens in a commercial way, but for a home system, we typically need all kinds of vegetables for our consumption, right? So we have adopted the best growing medium and methodologies across various options and integrated into aquaponics. Okay, one such thing is a wicking bed, which we highly recommend and we incorporate in our home system models. To grow root crops. Okay, you can grow carrot, beetroot, potato, onion, and everything, anything which needs a soil kind of a substrate for them to grow under soil plants. These are okay. But here we don't use soil, but instead we will use worm compost and a coco pit mixture in an automated way. So that these plants can also be grown. And wicking beds, you can grow actually all the plants, tomatoes, greens, and everything also you can grow. But then, like, you really don't need to spend a little more to grow these greens and other plants where we have a less cost or economical options available, right? So, but then the whole idea is in aquaponics we have incorporated different grow beds, right? A wicking bed, a deep water culture beds, and a nutrient film technique bed, continuous flow media beds, and vertical towers. There are a lot of options which we can incorporate in aquaponics to grow different sets of vegetables, right? So what type of grow bed to choose for in an aquaponics system is purely depends on what type of crops you want to grow. Okay, so if you want to grow root crops, you can use these kinds of wicking bed is the best option, right? Deep water culture is basically it's full of water, just 1 foot height, and then you have a floating raft system like a thermocol sheet or a plywood, anything which is food grade and floatable material is something which you can use in your deep water culture. And then you have holes cut with the net pots put in place. You can grow all kinds of greens. Okay. You can actually grow tomatoes and other things also here. It doesn't matter because like the plants, again, as I said, it's going to take the nutrient rich water via the root system. Okay, they're not going to, they don't expect a dirt or a soil or hydroton or anything for that matter. Okay, but what kind of plants we can grow is basically tomato and all those kinds of crops which can be practiced to grow in a vine, right? So basically, as long as you provide support structure to the plant using a vine or a thread, you can grow in that, or a shallow root crop greens like palak, mint, and things like that is something which you can grow in again in deep water culture. Okay, what are the things that you cannot grow in a deep water culture is basically a bushy crop. Okay, let's say for example okra or something like that, right? So these are some of the crops which grow as a bush, where providing a single stem support is a little complicated. Okay, whereas tomato you can practice them to grow, or cucumber you can practice them to grow on a single stem, and you can tie them onto a top, and then you can guide them to grow without falling into the system, right? So any bushy crops is something which you may not be able to. I mean, you can grow, plants will grow, but the providing support system is a problem there. Okay. And then we have nutrient film technique. It's like using pipes to grow plants. The benefit of this is basically it's lightweight, easy to move, and you can do vertical growing with the NFT. But one limitation is you can grow crops which are only like short-term crops, like 28-day or 35-day crop cycle, are the plants which we can grow in an NFT system. Because I mean, actually you can grow tomato also, but the problem is the roots will go and clog your pipes. Okay, so you'll end up in a nightmare if you try to grow tomato in an NFT system. Okay, these are all like from our experience, guys. So we recommend only short-term crops in an NFT. Okay. And then we have towers and all those stuff, and then we have continuous flow media bed. So this is like just like a deep water culture bed, but then we have a media also. This is not a typical flood and drain bell siphon model which you could come up with in a YouTube video when you search for aquaponics. No, this is not that grow, but it's a continuous flow media bed model. This we recommend for bushy crops, right? Like so the okra or I just couldn't get another plant apart from it. So any bushy crops. Eggplant, okra, and plants like that, right, which grow as a bush, and even fruiting crops or even some greens grow in a bushy format. So all those crops you can grow in a continuous flow media beds. Okay. So I have tried to cover to give a basic overview of aquaponics, guys. Okay, and we can get into a quick QA session.
Hi, Nisar. Thank you so much for all the information and for conducting the session. We have a couple of Q&As which are there in the chat section. I'll just read out the questions. So the
Okay.
first one is by Meera. She's asking if it's possible to have roof garden or home garden. I believe it's with, with aquaponics.
Yes, yes, it is very much possible, and that is all we are promoting, right? So you can a minimum, let's say, for example, a family of 4 to 5 members, all you need is a 200 square feet space on your rooftop or a backyard or anything for that matter. So you can very well have rooftop gardens. We have done a lot of rooftop garden installation for our customers to grow their own food. Yes, you can do.
Okay. The second question is by Rohit. First of all, he is thanking you for the session, very informative. And the question that he asks, that he has, is how different is hydroponics from aquaponics? I think you've already covered this during a presentation, right? However, could you just briefly touch upon it again?
Yes, yes. So I a little bit covered up that. So the only thing is, right, so both are soilless cultivation. It is the way the nutrient is being produced for the plants to grow, right? So in hydroponics, we are again following the synthetic fertilizer based model. Okay, we are using a synthetic fertilizer in a water soluble format. We are adding it to the system water, and then we are making the plants to grow. So that cannot be claimed as organic or truly a natural way. Okay, whereas in aquaponics, just like in a conventional, I mean, a soil-based natural farming, instead of using a cow dung or a cow, we are using a fish and fish poop to get all the nutrients we want, and we use that for the plants to grow. So this is aquaponics is a truly natural ecosystem, whereas hydroponics is a soilless cultivation model using a synthetic fertilizer based.
Okay, we have a question from Praveen about can we reuse the RO discharge water for aquaponic system?
Okay, reusing RO discharge water for aquaponic system. Actually, we can reuse it. That is not a problem, because once the system stabilizes the aquaponic system as such stabilizes, the RO water, actually the RO drain water, right? It's actually highly nutrient rich water. That is what we are actually wasting it, right? So we can add that system back to the aquaponic system. Because the amount of water we will be topping up in an aquaponics will be very, very less, right? So in that case, we can reuse RO discharge water. Just going to add additional nutrients to your system.
We have a question from Veena. What is the minimum expense?
Okay, so it depends on the scale you wanted to do, Veena. So basically, a basic foam system, what we give it to people is basically is 200 square feet size, where you can grow your own vegetables and fish for a family of 3 to 5 members. Okay, so that would cost you around 75,000 rupees, including installation and everything. And what may not be, what is not included is actual transportation and media and things like that. It's a very like around 5,000 or extra would cost you in that case. I mean, you can WhatsApp me on this number 9840652406. I have a document which I can send you, which covers the details of what is covered, what is not, what's the production capacity, and all those stuffs.
Okay. Darab is asking if you could guide him on setting up a two to three home level aquaponics unit in a poly house on a small school campus in Pune.
Yeah, there are we can do that. We set it up across Tamil Nadu for home systems, and we do semi-commercial projects across India. Yes, as you said, it's 2 to 3x home level aquaponic system. So I think you're talking about around like 600, 800 square feet or maybe 1,000 square feet size that we consider as a semi-commercial aquaponic system. And even for home systems, we are planning to extend our support across India. So definitely, yes, we can do in school campus in Pune. And school campus is another interesting thing where actually we wanted to do because aquaponics, if you look at, you can show the kids the practical application of whatever the science they learn. You take Bernoulli's principle or Venturi's principle, anything for that matter is all happening in farming in general, and especially in aquaponics. You can practically show them what they are learning, right? So we actually wanted to have an aquaponic system in every school in India. But yes, we can always come and do the installation for you guys across India, not an issue. You can contact me on WhatsApp on the number.
We have one more question from Praveen. If someone would like to set up an aquaponics system at home, back garden or terrace, can you come and set it up for a cost? If yes, then how much is the smallest system cost? I think you've just covered it, right?
Yes,
About
yes,
the
please.
cost. Okay. We have a question from Bishal. Can we do aquaponics in the hilly areas?
Yes, definitely we can do. Only one thing which we need to look at is this. Okay, we are providing a natural ecosystem for these 3 types of living organisms, right? Fish, plant, and the bacteria. Okay, so we have to choose fish and plant in such a way that it adapts to the ground environment. Okay, if it is a hilly region, based on your temperature conditions, we can choose plants and fish which will grow there. Okay, if it is an humid or plains, hot area, we have to choose fish and plant accordingly. But yes, the aquaponic system as such can be done in both hilly areas and in plains. Not an issue.
Okay. Harinath is thanking you for the great information. Gulshan Kumar is asking about the minimum land required to start an aqua farm and the money too.
Okay, so as I said, for a home system, all you need is like 100 to 200 square feet, and 75,000 is the maximum cost. I mean, minimum cost is going to cost you. But if you are talking about looking at a semi-commercial or commercial farm, it's based on your requirement. Okay, it's based on your scale, what you wanted to do. Okay, so it's not the size which determines aquaponic system. We talk about in production quantities. Okay. So basically, what we recommend for anybody who wants to get into aquaponics as an entrepreneur or farming as an entrepreneur as a business, we ask them to do a marketing strategy first in place. What you're going to produce, how you're going to sell it, at what price you're going to sell, and then to achieve the profit margin and whatnot and all those stuff. So what is the production quantity you want, right? Say maybe like 500 kgs, 600 kgs, 5 tons, 10 tons. It varies people to people at what scale they wanted to do, and a lot of those things. So based on your marketing strategy, come up with a target production quantity, and we have to do a system design based on the production quantity, right? And also based on your selling cycle. You can sell it every day, or you can sell it once in a week, because we sell it like once in a week. We don't sell it every day or every month, right? So every week we do like harvest our fish and vegetables, and it goes as a package to almost like 150 250 families around us. Okay, so that's a subscription model kind of a thing is what we operate on, right? So that's what we are looking at. So there are a lot of things which we do similar to that. So it purely depends on your marketing strategy. Please come up with your production requirement, and then we can work on what size is required. Okay, because like we can grow 2 acres of produce in an 25 cents or 50 cents of an area in aquaponics.
Okay. Okay, we have a question from Harinath. Other than having a desire to grow own food, how knowledgeable a person should be in agricultural farming and fish farming?
Okay, so this is I actually didn't get the question clearly. How knowledgeable a
I,
person should be in agricultural
I
farming and fish farming
yeah,
to do aquaponics, or in general you are asking?
I think this is with specifically about aquaponics.
Aquaponics. Okay. So yeah, in that case, I mean, you really don't need to get in too much, because I mean, if you take agriculture and fish farming, there are a lot of science behind it, which goes all the way how the ionic change happens and how this bacteria thrive and all those stuff. You don't really need to dig a lot deeper into it as a home grower. So that is why like people like us, we are here to train you on a few basic things, right? So how to put seeds, how to bring up germination, how to transplant a plant, and how to feed the fish, and things like that, how to clean the filter. These are all the basic things which you need to understand, which is very much easily doable for anybody, even for an uneducated person also. So other than that, you don't really need to get deeper into this to grow your own food, or to even operate a farm, okay, for that matter. But yes, as part of your wish, if you want to dig deeper and learn more things, there is always a possibility.
We have a question from one second. Okay, we have a question from Prabhu. For a minimum of 200 square feet, how much produce can be yielded?
Yeah, so for the basic home system, when I say yield, basically we can grow up to like 120 to 150 plants in the system. So you'll get three types of grow beds: wicking bed, EWC bed, and a media bed. Okay, but in terms of the quantity, we cannot actually quantify it in a home system, because we provide this model to grow all kinds of vegetables. Okay, so let's say for example, if you grow all greens, then we can actually quantify the numbers. All right. So let's say you grow all pallax, then I can say that, okay, 30 bunches every week or things like that is what we can say. But a home system model is designed in such a way that all the vegetables can grow. So you might have one tomato plant, you will have one okra, you will have 2 or 3 pallack and 2 or 3 mint plants, and it will keep growing like that, right? So that's how it is. For the fish is concerned, you can grow 30 kg of fish every 6 months. Okay. For the fish to grow to half kg size from a fry stage is 6 months. So 30 kg of fish you can harvest every 6 months. Okay, so for a family of 3 or 4, even if you consume like 1 kg per week, or every 2 weeks, then you have 30 iterations every 6 months. So that's how it goes.
Is it possible? We have a question from Leela. Or is it possible to have a setup in a space smaller than 200 square feet, and cost?
Okay, so at 200 square feet, when we say it's all about including walking space and all those stuffs. Yes, we do custom design as well if the space is less or space is more. You can WhatsApp me on the number 9840652406. Based on your area, we can suggest like what exactly can be done.
Okay. Okay, we have one more question that is about, can you please mention some of the states that practice aquaponics?
Okay, so aquaponics is a new technology across the world, and we started back in 2014 in India. But then, like in India, as a commercial farm, if you look at, there are very few farms. There's one in Noida, I think, and then there's one in Bangalore, and we are in Tamil Nadu. These are the three farms which I could think of in a very commercial scale projects. Okay. But other than that, there are a lot of small rooftop gardens and things like that. Even we have installed a lot of rooftop gardens for our customers. That is happening across places, but I could see only three major aquaponics players. There are a few coming up in Bangalore.
Okay. We have a question from Darab. Do you have expertise in biological waste treatment of wastewater, or can you recommend resources or training?
Okay, so aquaponics has biological wastewater treatment as one of the modules in the aquaponics system. Okay, but then if you are more specific about wastewater treatment, biological wastewater treatment, I'm not sure to what depth you wanted to do this biological wastewater. If it is for your home use, you can very well use whatever we do it in aquaponics. Okay. But whereas you have an industrial excrete which you wanted to treat, which has more arsenic and lead and things like that, yes, you need to get some expert advice specifically on wastewater treatment. Okay, so it depends on what exactly you are looking for.
Praveen is asking, okay, so he has a small farm, about an acre, about 1 hour drive from South Delhi. What would be the capital cost of setting up an aquaponics farm, and what revenue can be generated from such a farm?
Yeah, again, as I said earlier, it depends on the scale and size. Instead of not the scale and size, the cost is actually determined based on scale and size, but the production capacity is what determines the scale, right? So you can message me, Praveen. There are a lot more queries has to be answered by you before I can give you a cost and what is the production capacity we can do. It depends on what crop, it depends on what fish, and there are a lot of things which we need to discuss before we setting up a commercial farm. You can reach me on WhatsApp.
Okay, we have a question from Panchagnula. Once we set up, what is the day-to-day maintenance?
So day-to-day maintenance is basically you have to feed the fish, and then you have to put seeds, transplant the seedlings, and then harvest and eat it. Okay, so the maintenance is very less. You have to feed the fish on a daily basis, and monitoring is the main thing in aquaponics. Okay, you have to make sure that the water pump is running, the air pump is running. That's all. You will spend 15 to 20 minutes for a home system, and once in a week you need to clean the filters. Okay, and that is again not a big thing. You have to just open a valve and flush out some of the water and then close it back. That's all you need to do on a weekly basis. Okay.
1 second. Yeah. So, aqua farm, can we plant trees like mango, guava, chiku, etc.?
In aquaponics, we can grow all these things, but how do we provide support for a mango tree, right? So the best way to do this fruit-based, not fruit-based, a tree-like support structures, right? So we cannot have them like floating in water, right? So it's better to have an RAA system and then have this biological filtration and everything, and then feed this water to the land-based mango tree or a guava tree. Okay, you cannot expect a recirculating system there. Okay, because the cost for you to set up and support structure for a mango tree is going to be very, very huge. Okay, so it's like a one-way path to the trees. That's how it's going to be, but you cannot achieve water conservation.
Okay, and for an acre, okay, I think you've covered this. For an acre, if we set up the aquaponics farm on the terrace, will it be okay in full sunlight?
Yes, that should be fine, not an issue. If you can put on shade cloth or a greenhouse kind of model, it's even more better. But yes, you can grow it on a full shade. That is not a problem. It purely depends on what kind of crop you grow. Okay, so we putting it a full sunlight and then expect lettuce to grow may not happen. Okay, so it has to be go with the temperature requirement.
Okay. Then there is a question about the day-to-day maintenance required. I think you've already touched upon it during your
Yes.
presentation. Yeah. Could you just mention it again? I think the person missed it.
Yeah, so the day-to-day maintenance is like as simple as like feeding the fish and monitoring your system to see if the pumps are working and the air pump and the water pump and things like that are working. Okay, and apart from that, based on your requirement, you will be seeding the plants and then like transplanting if required, or some plants you will directly seed down the grow beds itself, and then you can very well harvest and consume it.
Okay.
Like 15 to 20 minutes a day.
Okay. I think yeah, I think that's about it. We have covered all the questions which are here. We have a last mention from Prabha that she's just thanking you so much for the webinar. She's gained a lot of information on groundwater contamination, very useful, interesting info. And yeah, I think that's all. So thank you so much, Nisar, for conducting this session. I'm very sure that all our participants found it very useful.